Okay, today we are on Adam of the Road, chapter 22. Adam helps a plowman. Adam came down the hill into Yulme just as the villagers fled into the square towered little stone church for evensong, and followed the last one in. It would be no use to go looking for the plowman's house if everyone was at service. The little church was cold and dim, with only the wax candles on the altar to light it, and the stone floor was even colder to Adam's feet than the road had been. He stood at the back of the congregation of villagers, uncomfortably shifting his weight from one aching foot to the other. Suddenly, he felt a little movement among the people, and then a nudge at his elbow. He turned and all but cried out with joy in the middle of the prayer, "Perkin!" He looked the same as ever, slender and dark and erect, with clear brown eyes and a serious smile. The astonishing thing was that Adam no longer looked up into Perkin's face. It was now level with his own. For the first time he realized how much he had grown during these past months. He squeezed Perkin's arm as he used to do in school at St. Albans, and Perkin squeezed his back. When they knelt for the blessing, Perkin leaned over to whisper in his ear, "I've got Nick for you." Yay! He's finally going to get Nick back. They were the first out of the church when evensong was over. Lickety-split, they went across the churchyard and over the low wall in a shortcut to Perkins's house. "Nick!" called Adam. "Nick, I'm coming!" Answering came a shrill yelp of joy. The next moment, dog and boy were together again. Adam tried to hug the warm, silky body close to him, while Nick wriggled and darted and jumped, now licking Adam's face thoroughly, now planting big feathery paws on Adam's chest, now twisting till his red tongue flopped beside his rapturous tail, first on one side and then on the other. When Adam unfastened the rope by which he was tied, Nick raced in circles all over the yard, yelping with joy, while the cat jumped, spitting up a tree. The chickens ran squawking in all directions, the geese stretched out their necks and hissed, and Adam and Perkin sat back on their heels and yelled with laughter. In the midst of all this joy, Perkin's family joined them. His father, Wat, the plowman, his mother, Gunilda, his elder brother, Robin, and his younger brother, Dickon. That evening they had one of Gunilda's famous kidney pies for supper, and sat late around the fire to talk. Adam's bare feet on Nick and his arm around Perkin's neck, their heads leaning against each other in the old way, the sleek black head and the tousled sandy one. Adam thought he had never met a family he liked so well as Perkin's. Wat, slow of speech, gentle and big. Gunilda, thin and dark like Perkin, with warm, intelligent eyes like his. Robin, tall and awkward and kind. And Dickon, little and eager, with bright, shy eyes like a field mouse. When they went to bed in the room above, Adam and Perkin lay awake whispering for a long time. "I thought you'd be in Oxford," Adam said in Perkin's ear. "I would have been, but I came home first, and Father needed help with the plowing. He's the Lord's plowman now, and he gets paid for it, but it doesn't leave him time to plant his own strips unless he has help. Robin is his ox herd, and he is a good one, but Dickon is too little to be of much use." "I'll help," said Adam promptly. "You'll have to stay anyhow till you get some shoes and things," said Perkin. "No one would think you're a minstrel now. You look more like a beggar." He poked Adam in the ribs, and as he said that to show that he was making a joke, and Nick at the foot of the bed woke up and came walking up Adam's body to lick both their faces, till they burrowed in the bed straw to keep him off and muffle their giggles. But all the same, Adam was troubled. A true joke is no joke, as the proverb said, and how was he to get new shoes and a minstrel's surcoat? "If you'd stay till the planting's done and take my place here," said Perkin, "I could go on to Oxford. Mother would help you with your things. Lent begins next week anyhow, and there won't be much chance for minstrelsy then." So it was arranged. A few days later, Perkin, with his precious book under one arm, his bundle of clothes on his back, and a basket of bread and cheese and onions on the other arm, started out to walk the 14 miles to Oxford in a learned career. Adam, the minstrel's son, with clogs on his bare feet, began to be a farmer's boy. Wat had a team of 4 oxen, small, thin beasts, but strong and willing. "They're almost human," Robin said, his eyes warm with love for them, "as human as a dog any day." He slept in the stable with them at night on a bed of hay where he could hear their breathing and speak to them lovingly from time to time. All good ox herds slept with their oxen, he told Adam. "I like horses better," said Adam, remembering Bayard. Horses, snorted Robin. Oxen are best for plowing. A horse eats a halfpenny worth of oats every night and a shilling of grass in the summer, and there's fodder and chaff beside. An ox doesn't cost a quarter of that much. A horse has to be shod, too, and that's about a penny a week. Oxen have better natures, too, not nearly so hasty. Give me an oxen any day. All right, I'll give 'em to you, said Adam, throwing a stick for Nick to run after. As for an ox being as human as a dog, that was pure nonsense. The plow was an enormous heavy thing made of solid oak beams with an iron share and an iron coulter to cut and turn the sail. It took great strength to keep it straight in the furrows. Early in the chilly morning, the four of them went out to the Lord's demesne to plow the fields for barley, which was the last of the Lenten seed to be planted. Robin walked to the left of the oxen, carrying a whip and a goad which he never had to use. Instead, he directed them by talking to them. Sometimes he even sang to them, strange tuneless chants which they seemed to understand and appreciate. Behind the plow walked Wat, holding the stilts or handles and often joining in with Robin's song to the oxen. Behind Wat went Adam and Dickon, with plow bats to break up the hard clods. It was strenuous work, and Adam was glad that the oxen stopped every 50 yards or so to rest a minute or two. Even so, his shoulders ached at the end of the first few days. In the resting time, Adam would wipe his hot face and look about him. Always there was something to see in the winter fields. Sometimes it was a cloud of gnats dancing in the sunshine. There was a sign of spring, and away would go his mind toward Ludlow. Roger had said he would pick Adam up at Ludlow in May. When the first cuckoo called, then Adam would start out for Shropshire. Sometimes he heard a blackbird singing or a cock pheasant crowing. Once, in the ground ivy at the edge of the field, he saw 2 little field mice playing. One of them climbed up the stem of a bush and nibbled at the bark. The rabbits were breeding now, and again he had to call Nick back from chasing baby bunnies. Even a dog must not poach the Lord's rabbits. They plowed only till noon, and then the oxen were turned out to pasture. After dinner, Wat and his family worked on their own holding. They had their garden to dig and plant with peas and beans and leeks and cabbages. They had strips of fields with the other villeins for wheat and oats, rye and barley. Wat was a good farmer. He got 10 bushels of wheat to the acre on the land he held. They had hens and geese to care for, several sheep, and a cow. The cow was thin, for she had spent the winter in the byre, but they were very fond of her, and the first time she was driven out to pasture with the other village cows, Gunilda was careful to tie a bit of red worsted around her tail to keep away witches. Indoors, Gunilda worked hard too, with the cooking and the baking and the cheese-making. She carded wool and washed it and dyed it and spun it. She wove it on her loom into cloth and made it into garments for her family to wear. She washed and mended their clothes too. After evensong, Wat and his family were good church people. They paid their tithes promptly and went to service every day. They had supper, and after supper, now that Adam was with them, they had evenings of minstrelsy. Adam sang them all the songs he knew, those he had made himself and those he had learned from Roger. He told them all the tales he could remember, and when his memory dropped out episodes here and there, he invented new ones to fill the gaps. Never had he so good an audience. The neighbors came in to listen too, and they sat scarcely blinking their eyes, and laughed or sighed with their whole hearts, according to what was happening to the hero of the story. With Adam, they liked the tale of Havelok best. "That was a fine lad," said Wat, "working the way he did as a kitchen boy, and all the time a prince." "Like our Adam," piped up Dickon. "He works as a ploughman's boy, and he all the time a minstrel." Everybody laughed, but Gunilda looked startled. The next day she took Adam aside and showed him 2 links of cloth. One she had dyed with madder, a rich red, and the other with woad, a bright blue. "There's just enough to make you a minstrel's surcoat," she said. "I can take your old one and wash it and turn it and make it over for Dickon, and you can have the bright one." Adam was overjoyed. March was nearly gone. The yellow blossoms were coming on the whin bushes on the common. The willows were green beside the brook, and the Lord's barley was all planted. It was almost time for Adam to be going on. While Gunilda was cutting and fitting and stitching Adam's new surcoat, the parson, who had formed a habit of dropping in to hear him sing in the evenings, brought out a piece of good leather that he had and got the cobbler to make Adam a pair of shoes. The cobbler drew a pattern around Adam's bare feet, and then he made the shoes a little too big so that he would not soon outgrow them. They were good stout shoes, a bit clumsy, but the leather was moist and shiny and smelled new. Adam put them on the shelf until his surcoat should be finished. All he needed now was a harp. He did not get that, but he got something else instead. One day, Wat sent him to the mill with a sack of wheat to be ground. The mill was an exciting place to go. The great wheel made a clacking and a rumbling as it turned, and the water came foaming and rushing over it. Inside it was big and dim and misty, with dark passages where candles, stuck deep in holes in the oak beams, made little pools of yellow light. The miller put the grain Adam had brought into the hopper, from which it poured in a stream to the great stone, and from there fell down soft and fine into the trough. When it was all ground, the miller measured out the share that was his pay for grinding it, and put the rest in the sack for Adam to carry home. "They tell me," the miller said then, jerkily, as if he spoke from an inner excitement that did not show in his flour-dusted red face, "that you are a minstrel lad with nary a harp or a pipe to make music on." Adam started to tell him how he had lost his harp, but the miller was not interested. "Come," he said mysteriously, and led his way into the house. There, from the shelf, he took down a bagpipe. "Do you know how to play one of these?" he asked. Adam nodded. A shepherd in the north had taught him 3 or 4 years ago. "Here's the bag, and these are the drones, and this is the chanter," said the miller, touching each one lovingly. "I never play it any more since I've got so heavy and my breath is so short. You can have it," he finished abruptly. Adam started to say, "But I couldn't sing to it. It takes all my breath to blow," but he bit the word off short. He saw too plainly in the miller's broad, honest face the struggle between the pain of sacrifice and the joy of giving. For an answer, he filled the bag with mighty puffs, and fumbling with the chanter, he achieved a little tune while the miller looked and beamed. "Yes, that's good," he said when Adam stopped, red-faced, to pant. "But you'll do better when you get the hang of it. It makes noble music." Adam did not think it made noble music, though he was too polite to say. He thought it made savage, ear-splitting noises. "I can use it to attract attention in the marketplace," he said aloud, "and then, when people see I'm a minstrel, I can tell my tales." The idea cheered him. A bagpipe would be much better than nothing. "Oh, thank you," he cried, with real gratitude at last in his voice. "People won't want any tales if they can listen to that music," said the miller happily. "Now take your flour and your pipes and get along with you before it turns dark." When he got back to the plowman's house, he found that Gunilda had finished his surcoat. She had made it out of the blue cloth with red sleeves and fringed it at the hem. She had made him a round cap, too, of the scraps with red and blue pieces alternating. The dairy woman at the manor house had sent down a pair of red hose which Gunilda had been saving as a surprise, and which she now brought out. With a fast-beating heart, Adam put on his new clothes and new shoes, while the whole family stood around him to cheer and admire. He took the bagpipe and made Nick walk on his hind legs while he strutted and played, "Summer is a-comin' in," and then he laid down the bagpipe carefully and turned 6 cartwheels without stopping. So next time we'll read the very last chapter and find out if Adam is reunited with Roger.